So the Reformation has a massive impact, not only on artwork, but also on culture. One of the biggest things, this Reformation thing, this idea of reforming the church that then turns into protesting the church, the Protestants, ultimately it's all springboarding off that humanism thing that you guys learned about during the Renaissance with Pico de Mirandola and the idea of individual choice. What the reformers are really interested in here is they are interested in people learning for themselves and seeking out sources for themselves, something the humanists were very interested in. Remember Erasmus and his Greek New Testament? The whole idea here is that everything will ultimately lead us to God. So the more that people learn, the more that they're going to be led back to God. Because of that point of view, the reformers encourage a lot more experimentation, a lot more science, a lot more inquiry, because they are emphasizing that idea of God helps those who help themselves. Find out everything you can and you will be led back to God. There are a number of different major discoveries that come because of that attitude. One of them is actually a serious shift in the way people view their place in the universe. And the first time that's actually codified is by a gentleman named Nicholas Copernicus. Copernicus is a scientist, a dreamer, spends a lot of time at his dad's castle watching out the windows, watching the sky. And he writes down his observations because he begins to see what appear to be the stars moving. Now, Copernicus takes observations of the sky with just his eyes, like nothing fancy, no special equipment, over an extended period of time, and then mathematically looks at what he's discovered. Now, Copernicus is a mathematician. He doesn't have any kind of viewing device. He is simply basing his observations on what he actually has seen with his eyes and basing them on mathematical principles. Based on the mathematic equations that Copernicus creates from watching the skies, Copernicus introduces something pretty darn impressive and earth-shattering. Now, in order to understand why this is so earth-shattering, you've got to go back to things before Copernicus, throughout the Middle Ages and throughout the Renaissance. Throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the view of the world was what we called geocentric. Now, geo, like geology, means earth. And so geo, or earth-centric, means earth-centered. Basically, the idea was that the earth was the center of the solar system and possibly the universe, and everything revolved around us. We were at the center of everything. This idea was based on a variety of reasons, of sources, but most notably it was based on several verses in the Bible. Those verses in the Bible said things like, the earth is fixed and firm. And when they read the earth is fixed, they took it completely literally. They didn't take it as like the earth is set into place. They took it as in like the earth is stuck on a pin. I mean, it is fixed in one spot, done move, right there. Also, they took all the passages about God saying that man is the pinnacle of his creation, that man is at the center of the... They take that kind of stuff literally, and they believe that man really is at the center of everything, and since the earth is fixed, that means the earth has to be at the center of everything. This goes back to the chain of being. Here we go again. The chain of being, man is the pinnacle of creation, the best thing God created, so naturally, where's God going to put the best thing he created? In the middle. The earth is at the center of everything, and everything revolves around the earth because, well, everything revolves around human beings. The geocentric view is based on the verses from the Bible that say the earth is fixed and on the idea that man is the most important thing, so man is the center of creation. What Copernicus introduces based on his mathematical equations is the second thing down at the bottom of your screen, heliocentric. Copernicus, based on his observations, comes to the mathematical conclusion, using formulas, that the earth is not sitting still. In fact, we're moving, and we're moving around the sun. That idea, helio, by the way, refers to the ancient Greek god of the sun, Helios. And so heliocentric is sun-centered. Copernicus believes that then the sun is in the center and everything is moving around the sun. Now, Copernicus is doing this based on math, not based on any advanced observations. So when you look at the picture of Copernicus' system, you're going to see that Copernicus proposes everything is absolutely round. All orbits are perfectly circular, which you and I know is not true. We work in spherical orbits, not in, not spherical, elliptical orbits, not in perfectly round orbits. But Copernicus is working off math here. He's working off theory, not reality. His view of a heliocentric cosmos with the sun at the center of the solar system is earth-shattering. And even living in Protestant territory, Copernicus is afraid for a long time to publish his ideas. He actually arranges to have his ideas published after his death, and they cause an incredible stir. But they do cause less of a stir in the north of Europe, where the Protestants are so strong, up in the area of the Holy Roman Empire, what today we would consider Germany. Because there is this idea that if you seek out information, and you're right, then ultimately that must lead you back to God somehow. So Copernicus proposes this radical change in thought. It's kind of hard for us to wrap our brains around how radical it is, because we're like, oh yeah, sun's at the center, we knew that, duh. For them, this is a challenge to everything they believed, a challenge to the idea that God loves mankind best. Mankind not at the center of everything? What on earth? How does this work? Now, this idea of reconsidering things, God helps those who help themselves, finding out more and more about how things work, is not just a northern idea. A gentleman in Italy by the name of Andreas Vesalius wants to pursue another type of science. Instead of watching the stars, he's interested in watching the human body. He's a doctor, and he feels that the textbooks that students are learning from are unacceptable. And you know what? He's right. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the textbooks that they were using to teach anatomy and physiology were actually throwbacks to information to books from ancient Greece. A guy by the name of Galen was one of their primary sources. These books, when they showed anatomical drawings, actually showed anatomical sketches of apes. Not people, apes. Gee, they're shaped the same, so they're like the same as people, right? Sure they are. Now, Galen was outdated, but because autopsies were illegal, because they didn't want people taking apart the human body, no one had any way of discovering how the body actually worked. Now, some of you guys are going, hey, you said Leonardo da Vinci made all these fancy schmancy drawings, and yeah, he did, and those were in his private journals, and nobody saw that stuff except Leonardo da Vinci. So it wasn't exactly helping to teach people about anatomy and about how the body worked. So, what Vesalius does is he actually goes to a judge in Italy where he lives, and he asks the permission of the courts and the permission of the church to do autopsies on condemned criminals after they are executed. Now, he gets permission. Why not? Part of the reason for not performing autopsies was because there was often a question as to how the person died, and it might be inconvenient if you discovered that they were murdered and then there was going to be an investigation. Vesalius doesn't have to worry about that because he's doing autopsies on the bodies of condemned criminals. No question. Also, these condemned criminals, according to the church, weren't going to heaven anyway, so there's no question of whether or not performing the autopsy, taking their body apart, will have any impact on their eternal security. Now, what Vesalius does is he does these autopsies on the bodies of condemned criminals, and he makes sketches and actually has one of his assistants, he hires a guy to do engravings of what he finds as he does these autopsies. He prints these engravings in a book and publishes the world's first anatomy textbook that truly reflects the biology of human beings. If you look at Vesalius's engravings, his illustrations, you'll notice that he's not just interested in the body laid out flat on a slab. He's interested in the body in motion. How does the skeleton move? How do the muscles move? How does the circulatory system move? Vesalius is desperately trying to present a textbook that will take doctors beyond the four humors. Remember Dürer's engraving with the elk and the cat and all that stuff? It was basically the four fluids in the body that they believed had to be in balance for you to be healthy. Vesalius wants to go beyond that. Vesalius actually wants to teach medical students how to understand the human body and how it works. And his textbook is a breaking point, a watershed, an amazing innovation that allows medicine for the first time to really take a step forward in understanding how the body worked, how it was supposed to work, and potentially how to repair it. Now, down south, not everyone is as well received as Vesalius. In the Catholic area of Italy, not all ideas are easily accepted. Vesalius got the permission of the courts and the church before he began doing autopsies. But another brilliant mind does not get those approvals, and he pays the price.